This is Mommying While Muslim, recorded live and unedited. Watch as Zeba and Uzma record their podcast, see their reactions, and find out for yourself what all the buzz is about.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Zeba Hassan, and my beautiful co-host Uzma Jaffrey is taking care of her baby girl today. We are sending her a lot of wishes. She's just taking care of some of her medical issues, and I'm definitely praying for everything to go well today, even though poor Uzma had to talk me off of a ledge this morning. I'm just going to be real about that. Before I introduce my beautiful guest, I am going to do our, what's the word? What does Uzma always call it? Like, I always forget because she takes care of it, but like our soapbox moment. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I have a soapbox for you today. And I have this speech all laid out in my head, and I realize I'm just going to talk from my heart and let it go. So, as we all know, I am a highly strong individual and experience a lot of anxiety. And I do have some, depression issues that come in and out, and obviously throwing in COVID, the uncertainty with homeschooling, nonsensical stuff in the world right now. It's just been a lot, like a lot. And part of my journey to Mommyingwhilemuslim was to help find the answers to some of the questions, concerns that we have as Muslim parents, and am I an expert? No. Do I suffer from imposter syndrome? 100% all the time. I am by no means an expert in any stretch of the imagination, but what I am is kind of help aiding the journey to finding the answers. And that's by bringing on amazing Muslim moms doing awesome things in their own careers, having Uzma, my beautiful co-host and partner, kind of taking on all the political stuff because that's her jam, not mine. It's just been really tough because I think as you get a little bit of success, which by God's grace, we have been getting, you do have a lot of the naysayers that come out and say, oh, why you, oh, so what is your background? What makes you the expert in this? And I guess my answer and response to those people is why not? Like, I'm trying to be my authentic self. I'm not an expert in any stretch of the imagination. For every one beautiful picture I post on Facebook, my babies sleeping peacefully. There's like 5 moments where they're beating each other bloody up to a pulp. True story, in front of my entire neighborhood. And guess what? That's part of motherhood. That's literally the journey we're on. And so I ask everybody during these times specifically that if you see somebody, kind of hurting or feeling a little bit lost, reach out to them. And I have a lot of amazing friends reach out to me. You know who you are, including my co-host this morning who was talking me off a ledge and being like, I'm done. I'm done with this whole thing because we all have those moments. And I wanted to say here for the record, everybody is going through something. And to the extent that we can help you and help guide you maybe to the answers if we don't have it, that is my goal with Mommyingwhilemuslim, and my soapbox moment is over. But I am going to bring on a very special guest today. I have known her for decades. And when I say decades, literally decades. And she is definitely an out of the box mama. She is Robina Cohen. I'm going to read her bio. I'm going to read her bio that she sent me earlier, but then I'm going to tell you the truth, like the real truth, because we've been experience everything together. But Robina went from motherless, self-schooled, and a runaway to marketing strategist, mompreneur, and multimedia mogul. Really, truly, I literally saw it from the ground up, like where we would work on algebra together and she would mail it in, and she was homeschooled and she took care of her parents, her parents and her siblings. And honestly, she's just amazing human being. And she definitely is somebody that's in my support system, even though she says that I've been blocking her out lately, which I have. I'm just going to own that. And I just wanted to introduce her. She's a marketing strategist. She's one of our expert team members here at Mommyingwhilemuslim. So thank you, Robina Cohen, for joining and dealing with my soapbox moment. And so have you, I'm just going to ask you your first question. Like, have you ever dealt with imposter syndrome, which is really, truly what I'm experiencing right now?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I just want to say, like, yes, I had imposter syndrome right before I hit send on my bio this morning, you know?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I have it every single day. I have it every time my team sends me something that they wrote about me and Firefly strategies. Um, and you've literally watched Firefly grow from the ground up and have seen the struggles and challenges in my own life. I mean, nothing I wrote and have in that bio is actually false, right?
Right.
I think there are some
It's beautifully written.
connotations to words such as mogul, and I decided I'm just going to own it. And I feel like we want now today advice from people that are more like us, more and more. Like, I don't want advice from a celebrity mom who has all the means in the world, has all the followers on the planet. Like, I want people that I feel that I can relate with to share their guidance with me. I don't even see advice like legal or medical or professional, like, to me, like, I would much rather take advice from you than somebody who's like a certified mom coach, like, who cares?
Oh my
So,
God, I'm so not a certified mom coach. Are you kidding me right now?
no,
I
but
don't even
there's
know if that's a
actual things
thing.
like that. No, it is. It's
That
an
is
actual,
so funny.
it's so weird.
Then
There's like
I
a
want
coach
that
for everything these
certification,
days.
okay?
No.
There is a coach for everything these days. No, you're 100% true. Like, you're right. And we all have our moments of self-doubt, and and especially right now when things are so uncertain, right? And right now you are a mompreneur and you're helping other mompreneurs and other entrepreneurs kind of facilitate their dreams in a new reality. So, like, how are you dealing with that? And how are you dealing with that for your clients specifically?
Well, first and foremost, I always tell people, like, connect back to that place within you, like, that is your why and the driver in what you do. And I think I sent that in a voice message to you, like, if
Hmm.
this morning, about, like, what is it that's really going to drive you and push you forward in the work that you are putting out into the world right now. And there comes a point, everything has a cycle. So I always say, if this is feeling like a point of it needs to shift or change or do something different, of course, like, we want to explore that. So one of the first things I'm doing for myself and for all of our clients and anybody who's come to me for any advice on, like, how are we navigating this right now, I think we have to now kind of, like, go a little bit more internal and really be honest with ourselves about, is this continuing to make me happy, and what is it going to look like for me to continue to feel happy? If it is still giving me happiness, is it going to be growth? Is it going to be adding new services? Is it going to be starting a whole other business? Is it going to be taking something bigger and making it smaller? So I think all of those things are valid and need to be considered. And so my big thing right now is literally, like, go within and ask yourself in an honest way, what is going to truly make me happy? Because your happiness is way more important to this planet than a product or a service. Like, if you think about it, all the people around you that surround you, they are going to get way more from your happiness than they are if you decide whatever you decide about Mommyingwhilemuslim or Hawa, or me deciding about all my businesses, right? My kids are going to benefit from my happiness way more than any business that I start. And so if the kids benefit from that, the world
Do you hear my
benefits.
big sigh?
So,
Yeah.
yes.
Do you hear my big
Yes.
sigh? But one of your babies just had a birthday, so do you want to
Yay.
talk about your mom journey, because it was a challenging one for you?
Yeah, I mean, so Aiden just turned 5,
I can't
and he
even
got to
believe that.
watch, I know, and he just got to watch Star Wars for the first time ever, because we were like, you have to
Woo!
wait till they're 5 to watch it. He loved it. The
It's
first
the
one
best.
ever, A
It's
New
on
Hope.
repeat at my house. Yes, it's on
Yes.
repeat at my house, as you know.
and brought back so many childhood memories. And in fact, the first time I ever watched it was with you.
Yep. With my
We watched
R2-D2
it in your
underwear,
basement.
remember? In my basement. We've been huge Star Wars fans. We are not the new
Yes.
Star Wars fan. We used to play in our backyard all the time because
Yes.
Robina and I have known each other since before we were in kindergarten. So in case you're
Yes.
feeling that the concept of familiarity between us, she knows where all my bodies are buried, and we're just gonna. I've had to pay her a couple of hush dollars to keep them under the rug. No, I'm kidding. I am just exactly
Might
who
have
I
even
was
dug the
back in the
ground a
day.
little bit myself.
Yeah, she helped me with that. But she's had an amazing journey, and especially right now when we're specifically talking about, one of my crazy things that I'm worried about, like the homeschool versus the not homeschool, which were this. She literally was self-taught. No parents helped her. I was there to witness it. And she ended up being literally this multimedia superstar. And, can you give us a little bit of insight in how that was, one, for you? And two, please give us some reassurances that it's going to be okay.
Oh, 100% it's going to be okay. Like our kids are so much smarter than so like
We
I was
were.
not a smart child. Like I worked hard and I was respectful, and I think those were some of the values that my parents had taught me, that I think those are the things that we can impart onto our kids. Level of intelligence, I feel like the kids that we have birthed onto this planet are like way beyond my level of intelligence sometimes. And I'm so thankful that the kids have so many amazing resources available to them now, and that we do. Like, we have amazing resources to give to our kids these days. I literally homeschooled myself. I had to, yes, fill out the work, put it in an envelope, have a librarian stamp the time and date and her signature, and put it into the mail. And that's how I went through grade 7 through high school. And my parents did not help me. My siblings had their own schooling to take care of. I was the only one of 5 kids who was homeschooled. So, and then I
And
cooked and
do you want to
cleaned.
talk? Yeah. Do you want to talk about why you were?
Yeah, so I lost my mother when I was 12, and my mom had been sick most of my life, in and out of the hospital. And then she left to India in 1991 and passed away there a few months after she went there. And we were all here in the States. And I had actually started homeschooling before she left. That year was when I started. And, she passed away there. And we were all here, and I was just like, wow, I think like she's not coming back now for sure. And my dad looked at me and he's like, this is your duty. You have to stay home now and take care of the family. And it sucked for me. I mean, on so many levels. Obviously, I lost my mother, but it sucked because one of my most happiest moments was waking up and going to school every morning. I know that is
Mm-hmm.
so odd, but I was one of those kids who loved to get up. I got myself ready. Nobody had to ever tell me to get ready to go to school. I just loved school. And so the idea of never getting to go back, or like not, to me at that time felt like never, because you can't imagine going to college one day at that age. But you're like, oh my God, I'm not going back to school, and this is what my life is going to look like. And, you know, I have to cook and clean and make sure my little siblings are fed every day and that they have lunches, and I'm helping them with their homework. Um, so I kind of became like the matriarch of my family, but on top of it, like trying to stay a kid and and be responsible and teach myself so many different things that I can't imagine, putting my children through today. But I'm saying all of that even if we had to, I think our kids have the capacity to be able to do that. And even if we decided, we're going to be lax in the way we teach them this year or next year or whatever, I think they're going to be just fine. And yeah, so I just want to say, like, I think it's such a worry because we had all these hopes and dreams and attachments to all these things because of the way things had looked for so many years. And there was a habit that we had built about
Mhm.
what their lives were supposed to look like. And we can't even imagine what it's going to look like. And I think from a fear perspective, we're thinking it's going to look sort of horrible for them. But I don't think it's going to look like that at all. I personally don't. And I think they're going to be able to create lives that are just even greater than what we've imagined for them.
Inshallah, from your mouth to
Inshallah.
God's ears. But it sounds like, in becoming the matriarch of your family, like I said, first of all, your bully was the best, her Hyderabadi food, because she is a
Mm.
good cook. I'd be like, we'd go over to her house and I'd be like, could you make me bully? So I was one of those people that just added to her.
No, I
I'm
loved
like,
it.
I was like, come and make me bully and some rice because her cooking was so amazing. And the truth of the matter is, you did go through, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, because you were um, the somebody just said your story is so inspiring, and it really is inspiring, to be honest with you, because
Thank you. Thank
we're
you.
going to get to the runaway part in a second. And like she did, after taking care of her family, like I would be there, we'd sleep over and literally get up in the morning, do the house cleaning and the work. I mean, we definitely just had a different lifestyle than our children did. So that resiliency and resistance, I think, is what you needed to be the strong CEO that you are today, right? And
Hmm.
and you in your bio says you went from being a self-taught homeschooler to a runaway, and I was there to witness when you did run away. So can you talk about that? Because I know a lot of our parents and a lot of our generation, and now that we're parents, it's a very scary thing for your kid to potentially do that. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about what was that final straw, how you went about it, and how you guys came back? Because I know Papa is very much a part of your life today, thankfully, as he was ours growing up. And so, how did you come full circle in your journey, specifically, away from Islam, back to Islam, into your own spiritual circle a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even considering that whole journey, the religious, spiritual journey that I navigated through during that time. But just from a purely what do I envision for my life perspective, my dad, as we call lovingly Papa,
Mhm.
he had this plan for me, which was you're going to get married by the age of 17, 18. And then you and your husband can decide whether you're going to go to college and all of that type of good stuff. And here I am taking care of people, five people actually, including my father. I made sure his lunches were ready, his clothes were clean, the house was clean, his house. So, I'm taking care of five people. The thought of getting married and having kids, like to me, was just like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not doing this. I've had kids now. I've done the housewife
By
thing.
the time you were
I'm so
18, you're
not
like, I'm
doing.
done playing the housewife role. You're like, I'm over this,
Yes,
people.
I'm so over it. So yeah, my dad kept coming to me with pictures of handsome men,
Oh
that
my
I was
God.
gonna marry, and like, oh, their family is so beautiful, and they look like your brothers and all this stuff. And
I
I'm
still
joking, but my
remember.
dad did say that, and he would laugh now, knowing that I was doing this bit about him. But he would say things like that, and I was like, oh my lord, this is not for me. I just knew I didn't know exactly what was for me, but I knew that wasn't for me. And I decided that I wanted to go away to college. Like, I love school. I'm finally going to go to school, people. Okay. I'm going to go to a real school. And, I did go to community college for a couple years so I could work during the day and save up money and then go to school in the evening. And really, what ended up happening is because I knew I wouldn't be able to escape, because sadly, that's how I felt like what I needed to do in order to leave this plan that my dad had put in front of me. Um, I wrote a letter, left it on his bed while he was at work one day, packed up the vehicle, and ran away to my brother's apartment. and then ran away to university, U of I, which is 2 hours south of Chicago, which is where we grew up. So um, I ran away, and my dad didn't talk to me for 2 years. He was completely just horrified that I would do it in the way that I did it. I hurt him so badly. But I, and I see the error of my ways, and I probably should have
As a
talked to
mother
my
now.
dad. Yes. And we talk about this with my kids because she was like, "Did you ever do anything naughty?" Leah likes to ask. And I was like, "Yeah, I actually did. I ran away. I broke Papa's
I ran
heart,
away from
and
home.
I was like,
You're
you
like,
don't get to ever do that, and here's why."
exactly.
um, so we talk about that openly, and like why I did it, and like education was really a goal and passion of mine, and I knew I wanted to be in school. And I think the only thing that I remember planning for was that I was going to be in school forever,
Yeah.
and that was like my joy and happiness. And so yeah, Papa was really upset with me. He didn't talk to me for 2 years, and then finally we made up, and he realized that I have these other goals and dreams. And then he realized, like, and I actually pointed out to him that he had, in fact, done what I had done when he was around my age. He left India at the age of 18, and he left behind his brand new wife, pregnant, and moved to Saudi Arabia, and left without his parents' blessings or anything. He just knew it was going to be a good thing for him to do for the family. And so he did it, and for the future of his family. And so he did it. And I told him, like, that's not very different than what I did. Like your parents had different plans for you. You decided to be a total rebel and leave. You didn't even just leave like to another neighborhood. I literally went from like, where Villa Park is, and then to Wheaton, which is like the next neighborhood over. So I was like, I didn't run away that far. Like you literally left India and went to Saudi Arabia. Okay. So he's
You
like,
left the
that's
country.
true. And he's like, that's true. You're a lot like me. We're similar. And I was like, exactly. I'm like, we share the same gene pool here. Okay. And so now we are like, I'm very open and honest and authentic with my dad about where I am, who I am, all my passions. We joke a lot about different things. And I feel like he does open up to me more than, some of my other siblings, because I have this very open relationship with my father now because of all the things we went through together.
So you, like I said, you didn't necessarily have that traditional background. Like, what do you feel you're doing differently as a mother now for your kids that you would give other people the advice to not kind of be in a situation where you're not talking to your parent for 2 years?
I know. I think
Because that is a fear. That's a genuine fear, I think, for a lot of parents. Like, and especially parents of teenagers as they're getting older and they're becoming their own people. Like, what advice can you give to those parents that are experiencing what Papa particularly experienced during the time of our childhood?
yeah, it's so hard. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I don't feel that same feeling, even though I've gone through all the things I've gone through. I think the biggest thing for my dad was he had such a fear about so many different things which were valid. He was raising kids without a partner, without their mom there. He was working a very hands-on, what is it, blue collar job. He was making very little money to be able to take care of all of us and give us all of the things that he felt like he needed to give us. um, he was very fearful of losing our culture, which I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people have a fear around. And so when you operate from a place of fear, you start to put these restrictions into place for your children that they don't understand. They don't understand your fears. They live fearlessly. And so you're putting all these fears onto them, and really what they're feeling is that angst, not necessarily your words. And I remember that. I always felt like my dad was just like so angry or mad or fearful and worried, and he was. and for valid reasons, but we never could understand it from his perspective as his kids. So I think what I try to do is whenever I feel myself feeling the fear, I'll communicate it on some level. Like, I'm really afraid, these are the things that I want to see, but and really openly talking to my kids about, like, here's kind of how I envision your strengths and things playing out into the world. But of course, I'm sure you have, your own thoughts about what you want to do, and just like not putting my own expectations onto them based on some fearful thoughts that I might have about, oh, what if she runs away, or what if she does this, or what if she does that. So I don't know. I don't know if I have the perfect answer, but I know that the way that I'm trying to navigate being a good parent is, though I have fears, to not always, yes, we don't understand that we're parenting out of fear either. Exactly. And so it's like that awareness is so important. And I think that is like the biggest thing we could do as a parent, is to be aware of when we are operating out of fear. It's just never a good thing. And so it's like his fear and his level of fear really pushed me out of the house, which could have been the best thing that could have happened, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know what the world would have been like if I hadn't left and I stayed home and I got married and I had kids. Maybe it wouldn't be that bad of a life either. It's just not the life that I wanted. I'm not saying that it would have been a bad life. It's just not the life that I envisioned for myself. So, um, yeah, I saw Uzma's comment about, uh, he that our parents don't know they're operating out of fear most of the time. So, um, yeah.
No, I agree. And right now, I only hesitate and I'm pausing because I'm just listening to your words. And I'm trying to resonate with that, because really right now, when there's so much unknown, I think a lot of what parents are doing are exactly that, right? We're operating from a fear-based um, part of ourself versus our logical love-based part of ourself. And the truth of the matter is, we need to kind of change that narrative. And I think that you really did do that, and part of what you do is saying, I'm going to live in my genius, right? Like, that is the basis of everything that you do entrepreneurially, if that's a word. But what does living in your genius, like, how do you apply it to your business? How do you apply it to your personal life? And how could we apply it in our personal life?
Um, so yes, the living in my genius is sort of the phrase that I finally landed on, in terms of what is my highest and greatest use on this planet. And to me, it came to me, through a lot of observation of the things that I was sort of navigating towards naturally in my work, and personally, and then also through a lot of prayer and asking for clarity and meditation. I know that that I do meditation pretty regularly, and have always, I think, navigated towards this idea of limitless living. Why put ourselves in these boxes of what we think because of what other people think of us? Like, why not challenge ourselves to do something really out of the box? And I've always kind of like pushed that, pushed on those edges, and like love to kind of tread around and maybe even go totally outside of the box. And but from a place of knowledge and learning, right? Like, when I navigated outside of the box of Islam that I grew up in, I was very much into the religion. I read the Quran, I read it daily, I would pray all 5 times a day, I fasted, I was always preaching.
Yes, she
um,
was the preacher.
yeah, and so I went from this, like, here's what it looks like for my family and for what the community has taught us, to completely abandoning and being like, what's outside this box? I want to know. I'm curious to see outside this box. And to be really honest, I know part of that was the people I was hanging out with, and really kind of piquing that interest and poking those aspects of me that I found like, I was like, oh, this is who I am. And then those people kind of like poking and opening up kind of these centers and ideas of like, what does it mean and look like to live outside the box? And I then went on this journey of finding and learning very deeply a few other religions that I fell in love with. Not to be able to say like, oh, I converted or anything like that. I never really converted, but I've adopted a lot of rituals and practices from a multitude of religions that feel just really great to me. And that includes Islam. I still, part of my daily language and the way that I live my life has a lot to do with Islam. And so, but I love this idea of like, limitless living, and living in your genius really is, what is my highest and greatest use on this planet? And I ask it every single day, and every day I wake up and I work towards the things that are exciting to me, that divinely is being downloaded in me. And I woke up this morning and I wrote this message to my whole team. I'm like, woohoo, Monday. I'm so pumped. I just learned a whole bunch of things about efficiencies and growing Firefly. And they were just like, like, oh my God, are you like this? Like, and I'm like that literally every Monday because I am pumped. I am in that space of like what's next and what's possible, and what does it mean to take it to the next level. And I'm kind of always living in that space, and I invite people to explore that, even without knowing what could happen. Who cares? Like, things are going to always happen to us. Like, I didn't know my mom's going to die. I didn't know, that I would be living in, poverty. I didn't know that I was going to run away. I didn't know any of those things. They just started happening to me on some level, right? So it's like, let stuff happen. You will deal with it. You are a resilient human being. But how can you kind of like push the edges to do some things that are really going to bring that fulfillment and happiness into your life? And what are some other ways to achieve the dreams that you might have seen of this path to, but now you have to have this path to, right? Like, so what's this new path? And like, can we have fun like figuring out the new path?
Well, I think when you talk about resiliency, I believe specifically right now, given the way that the world is, right, and the unknowns and all the things. I mean, that's just like my undercurrent theme, right, of this particular podcast. I'm in the grief period of being angry, in case you haven't figured that out, which I think a lot of people are figuring it out. They're like,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
energy is normally so light, and I'm like, I know I'm a cloud of darkness, and I'm just going to own it, because and in that you can kind of push forward, right? That's kind of where I need to be in order to move forward. So what
Oh,
advice are you going
totally.
to give to entrepreneurs right now that are in this fear factor, like, I don't know what's going to happen? Like, what would be the number one piece of advice that you would give somebody, like a client coming to you, like, listen, this is totally new, I don't even know how to navigate this. How do you make them feel like, okay, calm down, live in your genius, this is what we're going to do? What's your number one piece of advice for that person?
I mean,
I'm
it
totally
is
putting you
so
on the spot.
different
Like,
right
I
now.
know
I
that.
know it is so different. And actually, I've shared so many different pieces of advice for different people right now. I mean, one of the things does it make sense for where one of my clients, okay, like they are close to retirement. One of their partners is sick with cancer, and they're like, I don't even know that I want to keep the business open. And I'm like, what is the most valuable and important thing to you right now? And they were like, our health. And I was like, to me, that is the driving factor for you. And honestly, I think it would be totally okay, whatever you decided. I'm not going to tell you to keep your business open. No, I'm not going to tell you that. Um, then there's other people who are like, I just stopped doing certain things because it's so uncertain and COVID is so scary right now. And I was like, oh, what certain things are those? And they're like, we stopped sending emails, stopped doing social media, and then learned that social media and emails generated them a lot of money in their business. I'm like, that's low hanging fruit. You need to start sending emails again. Start generating money again. People are not spending, and the only reason you're not making money is because you haven't sent an email. And so I think what I do is, and I think I one of the things I've recognized as my genius, and I help people, is like I kind of can see that moment of where they need clarity, and then like actually give them a map to like walk. Because I think one of the things fear does is it makes you unfocused and unclear. And so I guess the biggest piece of advice that I can do is whatever you need to do to feel clear, like clarity and focus on your next step, not necessarily the long term vision. Because the long term vision is really hard to imagine right now. It's based on so much of how we live, not what's coming up. So to me, it's more about what is gaining clarity for your next few steps is totally more important, because you need in as an entrepreneur, you do have to take a few steps, right? You can't just halt. It's like you either shut down if you're going to halt, but you can't halt and then expect to come back to where you were if you halt. So momentum is so important in entrepreneurship, even imperfect momentum. So even if there's lacking in quality or consistency, I think you still have to be putting something out. If you halt and then you want to come back, it's going to be just that much harder to come back to it. So, number one piece of advice, however you can achieve it, whether it's to get the help from somebody, get the counsel of a family member or a close friend, what are the next few steps you need to take and get clear on that?
No, I definitely appreciate it. I know the last time the three of us were together, you, myself, and Uzma, we were in Santa Fe for a marketing retreat. For those of you guys that don't know, Robina is our marketing guru for Mommyingwhilemuslim. And, we all happen to be childhood friends, right? So it was just kind of like a fun girls' weekend, my first one ever. And we really sat down and talked about just that clarity, right? What is it what are you guys trying to achieve? How, because sometimes you feel like you're just talking to this open air, especially when you're in a podcast, you don't necessarily feel or see that instant gratification. And are we doing it for the right reasons? What are we doing? Like who are our audience, like who are our audience members? What are we trying to do? And in sitting down and just having that frank dialogue, I feel like we were able to, one, get that clarity, to get the clarity and understand that we did need the consistency, and then from there things happen. The number one thing she told us to do, which is kind of like just go after it. Like, what is the worst that somebody can say to you? And that's no, right? And then you say thank you for your time and move on. And I do feel like right now, when things are unknown, thinking 5, 6, 7, 8 steps ahead is probably a little overwhelming. But thinking in that, what I can do right now is reach out to that one person that I knew did this. So let's go ahead and do that and see how we can collaborate. And right now, people are looking for those connections, even if it's just on an emotional level, right? Let alone professional. And sometimes things on an emotional level can convert to a professional level if people understand your authenticity and your genuineness. So I think that if you come from a place of heart and you kind of put it out into the universe, I do think that it really does manifest itself the way that it's supposed to, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember, all the things we talked about in January and all the goals we laid out have, alhamdulillah, come true for Mommyingwhilemuslim, and I feel like, and there's more to come, so it was like with that clarity and with those few little things we wrote out on a board, which is another really big thing. I really advise people not to keep things in their head. Just try to write it down as much as possible. Take the few minutes to just bullet point out some of the little steps that you can take right away.
You're going to have a journal coming out, right? Like, when is that going to happen? Because we can kind of write down, use your journal for fireflies, and for those women or those, obviously we're a mompreneur. For those mompreneurs that are really just trying to put things down on paper, when is your journal going to be available for them?
It's gonna be available pretty much in like 2 weeks. We have the monthly
Woo!
version and the quarterly version. And the quarterly version is going to be available for people who are going to get like serious. And I was only looking away because I had my prototypes here. This is
I
the
love
Piece of
it.
Genius
That one's going to be mine.
planner.
The
Yes,
one
the polka
there.
dots. And
The
then this
polka
is a
dots are
smaller
mine.
size. And then some people like the 8.5 by 11. And I have this like nice sort of piece of genius. And then it's lovely, and it is a journal. It's basically because one of the ways that I coped and I dealt with everything that I was going through when I was younger is I literally journaled every day. And I wrote down all my thoughts and feelings, and it really supported me. And now I make all these plans and run my businesses and projects by literally planning it out week by week, the steps that we're going to take, me and then my team are going to take every single week to reach that end outcome that we're looking for. And the thing that I like about the week by week planning too is it allows you to deal with reality situations that may come, like speed bumps in the road, comets falling out of the sky, situations, and
That
yeah,
may
like
happen right
deadly.
now. Like, let's just
I
be
know,
real. At some
I
point, that's
know.
gonna happen, 'cause I feel like everything
Yes,
else has,
I
so
know,
I'm waiting
I
for the
know.
sky
I'm
to
like,
fall, okay?
I know, I
Chicken
know,
Little, if I see Chicken Little come across my street, I promise to God I'm gonna run the other way
I
because
know,
I just feel
I know.
like it could happen at this point. That's just where I'm at in my mental health
I
journey.
know. And so it's almost like all you can do is kind of like trudge forward right now, and whatever it takes for you to take that next step. I highly, highly, encourage everybody to just take that next step. I don't think that you can do anything wrong, really. Like there's lots of things we're already
There's
dealing with that are
there's no
so hard.
precedence, right? Like there's no
No,
precedence. So
no
it's kind of like
precedence.
a free for all for everybody at this point.
Absolutely.
But so what is your next big project? Because I know you've been working on your passion project for a while, and I definitely wanted you to have an opportunity to talk about it here because then it kind of puts it out into the universe. So you want to tell us a little bit about what
Yay!
you're working on right now that I'm super excited about?
Yes, I'm working on ritual power. And ritual power really is born out of another challenge I faced in my life, which is postpartum depression, anxiety, and psychosis after my son was born. And I remember wished that there was a box that would show up every month that would have like these little self-care items for me that reminded me, we have boxes for all these other things. I was like, oh, I wish I could get like, all these nice little self-care things delivered to my door every single month, and decided to create Ritual Power Box, and formerly known as Postpartum Power Box, which we can talk about branding a whole other episode if you want.
We could have just one episode on branding alone, like for
Right? I
people.
know.
We'll
Well,
we'll
we
we'll,
got
we'll direct people.
information.
We'll direct people to Piece of Genius because you do talk about branding and all that in your Facebook groups.
The
And she's
Genius
very
Illuminated,
hands
yes.
on. Genius
I know.
Illuminated.
I have so many
She's
different
very
things.
hands
It's
on.
confusing.
I love it. I know. I'm like, what are you doing today? And
I know.
where are you taking over the world at this point? But no, I definitely appreciate that she does talk about branding, marketing. So if you just want to just go and hop in and just get a couple of pieces of advice, talk to other people in similar situations as yours. It's an amazing group to be a part of, and we're going to post those in our show notes. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about ritual power because I do know right now. I mean, if somebody could send me a box a month where I can just be like, oh my God, I'm just going to take 5 minutes to ourselves. I think that's what's going on right now. Our moms are having to carry so much on our shoulders, in addition to everything
Yeah.
else we had to hold up, that we're not taking the time for self care. We're not allowing ourselves the 5-10 minutes to decompress. So, getting a box like this would be like a savings grace for me.
And to take it further, I really I want to see moms not say to themselves anymore, "Oh, I'm going to take 5 to 10 minutes." No, self-care is longer than that, and it needs to be scheduled, and it needs to be put onto your calendar, and it needs to be number one at this point. It's like you deserve it, and our families are like, if from this place of like, it's so weird, like we are like, I work this hard because my family needs me. Well, what happens if you like get seriously, you know ill, or you're just not, like, you're like useless because you're burnt out? Like, it just doesn't need to get to the point of burnout. And for me, it got to the point of like serious mental health disorder. And it took a long time for me to realize how much this self-care meant for my mental health. And my family suffers. They're not helped with me working like a crazy, person from 4 a.m. until 11 p.m. every single day for them. And it's just like this outpouring of giving. It's like, when does the funnel like run out? When does the well go dry? And we're literally on the verge, because more and more women are dealing with postpartum slash mental health issues these days, especially mothers, because they take on a very heavy burden. And my goal with Ritual Power Box is, and Ritual Power, the community. So, free Facebook community, Ritual Power. Um, Join us, because we are just having this discussion and sharing tips and resources on ritualizing our self care. But with Ritual Power Box, what I really want to do is get the entire family involved in ritualizing the mother's self care. So
Hmm.
that is my goal. It's like, how do we get the kids involved to make the time to let mom put this on her schedule, to make sure she gets to go up and do that. Just the way when they say, I want to have a movie night, and mom gets popcorn ready and picks out the movie and makes sure the TV room is perfect, and makes a special dinner right before movie night, like pizza or something. Like, all those little pieces come together for movie night for your kids. It's self-care night for mom. Like, what can we all do to help self-care night happen for mother? That's where I want to eventually. That might be a lofty goal, but I think we can do it. Again, limitless living, right? Like, what's possible is the only question I'm always going to be asking. And so Ritual Power Box is my version of what's possible. I think this is possible. I think it's possible to have our partners, our children, our family members become involved in taking care of us, like we see in a lot of communities where the entire community is involved. Growing up in, like, there's a part of my life where I lived in India. The entire community gets involved with so many different things, and raising the kids, and feeding them and disciplining them, and so many things. So I think it's going to take a community to help ritualize a mother's self-care.
It's really the mental load that we have to carry. Not to say that dads don't do it. So I want to make that clear. Whoever is the primary caregiver, whether it's the
Yeah.
mom or the dad. But I think a lot of studies have shown it's primarily the mother. But it's it's the mental, physical load, and it's the inability to ask for help too, right? Like, that's always been my thing. I've been super self-sufficient, kind of done my thing my entire life,
Yes.
a little bit on my own. And so when you're getting to a point where you're like, I'm drowning here, right? And I'm just being honest and frank and open about it, because I do think we need to talk about these things.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, what do you have to be worried about or whatever? No, I'm drowning right now. And
Yeah.
I'm at a situation where I'm like, I have to ask for help. And I have reached out. And like I said, surrounding yourself with other moms that know kind of what you're going through, or friends that they don't have to be moms. But in my particular circumstance, I have a group of amazing people that are part of my village that kind of help pull me out. So that is definitely super helpful. And I know I need you to hurry up and get these boxes together, girl, so that I can start ordering them for myself. But I know we're going to be talking about that a lot more in Momming While Muslim. So, feel free to reach out to Robina. She is part of our group as one of our residence experts as well. But like, you're talking about, self-care. What have you done this week to take care of yourself as a mama?
So I actually took time. I went early, especially yesterday, and I try to do something for myself every day. But yesterday I went out early into this like I'm a nature girl, which is why I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we have this amazing big open space in our backyard. And I took my journal, I took my coffee, I took a blanket, I sat outside and meditated and journaled and just like and I just like let myself close my eyes and just rest and like soak in nature and the sounds. And soon after I started getting bug bites, so I did come in.
You're like, the bugs had an
I
alternative
know.
plan, but
I
that
know, but it
sounds
was just
really
so
heavenly.
nice, right? Like it's
Yeah,
just like a departure from
from your
the
everyday.
boom, 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 check this off, my robotic little like
Yeah,
list of things to do, and to just break that monotony and just like refill my
cup,
energetic cup. And it was
definitely.
just lovely. It was lovely. It was all that I needed. And it totally showed in how I responded to certain annoyances that we all
Right.
have in our families. Like I didn't yell at my kids at all yesterday, which is always a
Woo!
win. I know.
Yes.
And I literally, like, my husband was telling me to tell him what time it was on my phone because we don't have a wall clock in our room. I don't know why. But he was like, "What time is it?" And I turned on my phone and I got this message. And all of a sudden, I see a pillow land on my face. And now I'm laughing at it, but I was so mad. I was like, "Why would you do that? Why would you throw a pillow on my face?" And he was like, "I'm
Exactly.
sorry. I didn't think it was going to land on your."
You're like,
So
stop it.
I didn't yell. I was like,
Okay.
"Oh, okay, here's the time." It's because I had
Don't
taken the
hit me in the
time.
face.
Now, if I had felt like I had done all this work for them and I had gone out of my way, I had no time for me, and then the pillow landed on my face, I probably would have lost it.
Yeah. No, that's
Right?
fair. That's fair. No, I'm definitely as part of my filling my cup today. We're going to continue this conversation
Conversation.
offline.
Yes.
We're going to
Yay.
continue this conversation offline because I haven't touched base with Robina. But where can our audience members find you other than on our website and obviously in our group? Where are the other places people can find you on Instagram and on Facebook?
Yes, so I am Robina Shea Cohen on Instagram, Firefly Strategies, and Ritual Power doesn't have an Instagram yet, but we have a Facebook group. So if you Google or in Facebook search Ritual Power under for groups, you'll see our Facebook group there. The Piece of Genius Planner and Genius Illuminated have their own websites, which I'll share with you guys so you can post it into the links. But yes, we have multiple ways of participating in all of my multi-preneur projects and ideas out into the world and planet. So
Well, I'm excited for my planner. I know you were going to be sending it to me soon, so I'm
I
super excited
am,
about that. Maybe I'll go out and like journal. I don't know. I'm always afraid of what I'm going to write down, and I'm like, yeah, I try not to do that. But one day I will when I'll get my mental health in check, and then we are going to go from there. But we're definitely going to take
yes,
this offline. Thank you so much for joining us today, Usma. We are thinking about you and hoping
yes,
Rania is doing well. Until next time, this is Zeba Hassan and Robina Cohen with Mommyingwhilemuslim. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.